Welcome to another episode of Sports Vibe. I'm Arnav Sarkar here with Jitesh Ramakrishnan. Got a special episode coming up. I'm excited to talk some college football. Twitter account CFP Talk Daily. That's going to be a good one. We're going to talk about the playoffs and preview the national championships and Year Six bowls, and talk some Rutgers football. It's a big Rutgers fan, which is it's pretty cool because I like to follow on the national stage, so is he, and but
Hey,
we're both Rutgers fans at
Pinstripe
heart.
Bowl, we killed it.
Yeah, Rutgers victorious in the Pinstripe Bowl, 31-24 over Miami, and really bringing the program back and successful. So, you know, um, yeah. So with that being said, this is the NFL episode, NFL Week 17 recap, and playoff picture starting to come together. It's well, not only starting, I mean, it is coming together, but an exciting week of football, just as every week tends to be, and a lot of great games. Um, so yeah, I mean, a lot to get to. We'll start with Thursday night football as usual. Jets Browns, and it appears that we have like a contender in Joe Flacco and the Browns. I mean, I'm just impressed by what
Who
I'm
the hell would
seeing
have
now.
thought? No, I mean, normally you hear stories of a couch to 5K in about 4 weeks. Like that's what we hear in the runners world. But
Hmm.
Joe Flacco went from couch to playoff contender with Cleveland in about 4 weeks.
Right.
Like, who would have seen? First of all, like who would have thought that Joe Flacco playing for the other Cleveland football team? Of course, the original one being in
Right.
Baltimore now,
Yeah.
but and this current Browns team being an expansion franchise. So really, if you look at if you look at it, Joe Flacco has been aligned with Cleveland all along, and we've seen that we saw that throughout Thursday. Like he was slinging the ball so well that he fell asleep at halftime. I don't know if you saw that on the broadcast, but like Cleveland, they just kept attacking. They were relentless in their running
Mhm.
game. David Njoku had an excellent game, uh, and like it,
Right.
like I've said over the past couple of weeks. It's the teams that are the most hot going into playoffs that are the most dangerous. And right now, Cleveland, I mean, in terms of like the non-divisional winners, Cleveland is by far the hottest team in the AFC. And you could argue in all of football. You really could make that argument. And Joe Flacco or Baker Mayfield, I mean, considering this scenario, I think I'd have to give comeback player of the year to Joe Flacco over Baker Mayfield. I mean, Baker's
Yeah.
done an excellent job, but
Hmm.
I considering Joe Flacco's like, he's a great grandpa and he's a dinosaur in the current NFL, and he went from sitting on his couch in November to taking the Cleveland Browns to their second playoff appearance in about 21 years, if I remember correctly. The latter half happening in 2021. Yeah, Joe Flacco's winning comeback player of the year.
Right. Yeah. I'd probably agree with that. I mean, he's like seriously pushing, DeMar Hamlin in the betting odds for comeback player of the year, actually. So
Yeah. And
yeah, it
and
should
here's
be
the thing, it's
interesting.
not like the Jets played like all that bad, honestly. I mean, aside
Yeah,
from
they
Zach
really
Wilson being
didn't.
a fairly garbage quarterback, but it's like, I mean, like it's just that Cleveland has a lot more to offer at this stage. And
Yeah, a lot more.
obviously,
Yeah. Yeah, a lot more talent for sure. I mean, that receiving game, the running game. I mean, Joe Flacco, this is like their fourth quarterback. I mean, they went through, Deshaun Watson got injured, and then, DTR, and then didn't they play someone else? And then this there or someone else
Dorian
got
Thompson,
injured.
right? Or
Yeah, Dorian Thompson, and
Dorian
then
Thompson?
Joe Flacco. Yeah, so I feel like I'm missing
No,
somebody,
but
but
as we said before, this is perhaps the most compelling argument against Dan Campbell for Coach of the Year. Like for Kevin, this is like perhaps the
right,
most pro Kevin Stefanski case for Coach of the Year. And both of these guys definitely deserve to be finalists. And like I said, the only reason I want to give it to Detroit, not because of bias or anything, but because like Detroit was like in the dumps like after the Stafford trade, and then Dan Campbell, like we've seen this man pours his blood, sweat, and tears in the Detroit Lions. Like you remember I forget which one. Yeah, it was like week 5 against the Vikings when Greg Joseph kicked the game winner against the Lions, and Dan Campbell was in tears during the entire press conference. Like that's when you could tell that man cared for his football team. You could
mm,
like I'm not saying Kevin Stefanski doesn't care because That's a ridiculous statement. I'm saying that like Dan Campbell, he's been working his butt off to build the Detroit Lions to where they are now. And like Kevin Stefanski, like, I mean, no disrespect to him, but it's like
Yeah.
I feel like since Cleveland already had like, their playoff moment a couple years ago, it's time to give it to Detroit. So I'd say, they deserve it. I'd say Dan Campbell deserves a coach of the year over Kevin Stefanski purely for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. That's actually a perfect transition into our next game, Lions versus Cowboys. And boy, this one came with
Oh,
quite the controversy.
listen, we had the GTA 6 trailer drop a few weeks ago. Now we
Mm,
saw GTA in real life, except one of the many crimes we see in GTA, grand larceny. This is what we saw against the Cowboys, and then again, the Lions are no stranger to getting robbed in Jerry World during a critical game. We've seen this before during the wild card game back in the 2014 season, and now we see it here. And once
yeah.
again, it's an undeserved victory for the Cowboys.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean Decker, clearly talked to the ref, clearly,
No, I
reported.
don't know what
Some other players
I
did
don't
as
know.
well, but I
I
don't
don't know what
understand
the
how
hell
you
Brad
force that
Allen
out.
was thinking.
Yeah, well, he's not going to be
No,
officiating in the playoffs, thank God. But I mean, it's Jerry World. I mean, NFC East fans know that, calls tend to go against pretty much any other team, really, but, especially like division rival. But the Lions, I mean, they really got screwed in this game. Um, I will say though, like when
I
they,
mean, but
when
here's the
that
thing.
ha they
Here's
should
the
have
thing.
still kicked the one point
I don't
play
think.
though. That's the thing. I think they kind of messed up by kind
Yes.
of being stubborn on that. That's kind of the problem I had with it. But
No,
I
no.
mean,
I think he
they
really
still should
wanted
have
to.
won though.
I think he really wanted to stick it. But
Yeah, I mean,
here's
I
the
know
thing.
Dan Campbell's
We
like
can't.
stubborn, but it's just a little, like determined like that. And it's good, but it
No,
just in that case,
I'm
I
saying
think
we can't pure. No, I'm saying we can't purely blame this game on Brad Allen being completely inept as a ref
hmm
because Detroit still had their missed opportunities. Remember, they're on fourth and goal, like I believe in the first quarter, and they went for it and they missed on that. That was an easy 3 points they could have taken on the road. That extra field goal opportunity right there, that could have been a game changer right there. And also, Jared Goff was not exactly really into this game. Like
Yeah,
he did not play that great. The Lions
right.
defense, I was the most shocked about that because the Lions defense held the Cowboys, aside from that 90-yard miracle pass touchdown
Oh
to
my
CeeDee
goodness,
Lamb
that was insane.
when Dak Prescott probably could have gotten safetied right there.
Yeah,
Like aside from that, the Detroit Lions held the Dallas Cowboys in check. Like in terms of offensive points. Of course, they couldn't stop CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb just ran all
that's
over the
not.
field like no tomorrow for 200 yards at a touchdown. But it's like,
Yeah, 227 touchdown. That's insane. He had like 50 fantasy points or something like that, I think. So anyway, fantasy's
yeah,
kind of over at this point, but I think my
no. So
plan for this week
I'm
happened.
saying we can't fully blame it on Brad Allen. Of course, majority of the blame rightfully should go towards Brad Allen for being completely inept.
Right.
But at the same
Yeah,
time,
the
the
Lions
Lions
had their
had
opportunity.
no, they had their chance to tie the game
Yeah.
after getting robbed,
hmm
um, which they didn't. They also had the
Yes.
chance to kick a field goal, like early in the first quarter, if I remember correctly. Or yeah, I think it was the first quarter when they whiffed on the fourth and goal opportunity right there. So they had their chances. They certainly did. So I don't want to fully blame the refs on this, even though I'd give them, I don't know, maybe 65% of the blame versus 35 on the Lions for you know, poor management of the clock, which again is another one of Mike McCarthy's specialties. But yeah, like I mean, it sucks to see a game end like this, especially when it's a Detroit, like a team that, you know, has
Yeah.
had robberies for like forever, and they can have like their one shining moment. But
Yeah.
as we've always said,
Oh,
good teams find a way to bounce back from crap like this.
yeah. It's the playoffs. I mean, the Lions will be in. Well, with Philly losing to Arizona, I mean, the Cowboys now have kind of the driver's seat in the division, so they might be able to, host what, 2 games before, having to maybe go to
And
San Francisco. So that should be an interesting
don't
twist
you find
there.
it strange But I mean, we'll talk about the Cardinals and Eagles later. But don't you find it strange that the Cardinals beat two of the best teams in the NFC East and lost to
Hmm.
two of the worst teams in the NFC East? I don't get it.
Yeah,
But anyways,
it's strange. It's
let's
weird.
move on to Titans Texans.
Right. Well, yeah, dominating win
Yeah.
there by Houston. Definitely like still in play for the division. I think they're tied with Jacksonville, but I think
I don't know
Jacksonville has the
what's up with the AFC
tiebreaker.
South.
So yeah, I don't know
No,
either.
I don't know what's up with the AFC because if you looked at this like maybe 4 weeks ago, Jacksonville was a complete lock, and
Right.
The Texans were going to make it in like probably the
The
sixth or
wild
seventh
card.
seed. Now, now like literally the season finale, either Jacksonville,
Yeah.
Indianapolis, or Houston could win the division. And of course, the Titans have been out for the past couple of weeks, but
Hmm.
literally any of those three teams could win the division or
Yeah.
lose and completely whiff on the playoffs. This is what I like to call fun chaos because things are going to get
Hmm.
fun
It
and
is. Yeah.
chaotic.
Yeah. It's just like we're in the last week of the season. We still don't know so much about this playoff picture. Like the Bills Dolphins situation is like the Bills could miss the playoffs
Yeah, it's
entirely, or
either
they could be the second
yeah, it's
seed.
win and get the 2 seed or lose and completely whiff.
Yeah, well, there's a chance. I think they need like the Steelers to beat the Ravens. They need some other things to happen for them to completely miss. But there's a chance they'll make the playoffs or be in the 2 seed, which is just absolutely nuts. That's also going to be a good Sunday night game, like on Sunday. But I mean, yeah, Texans. Well, I mean for for this game at least, they held serve and CJ Stroud's back, so that certainly helped things a lot. And Titans are didn't play well at all. I don't really know what to say. A lot of field goals,
Yeah.
but yeah, the Texans definitely were the better team. Um, it's just sad. The Titans have, a lot of talent. They have like Derrick Henry, they have DeAndre Hopkins, and they have Ryan Tannehill, and like they haven't gone anywhere. And like, it's every other team in the division that's competing, and a nice bounce back
No,
win for the Texans, though. They needed that
I
one.
think the best course is for the Titans. Yeah, I think the best course is for the Titans to tear down.
Yeah, they need to
Ryan
rebuild.
Tannehill is definitely a goner because
Hmm.
they've already found a Mayo man, Will Levis.
Yeah,
Um, and then this is quite Derrick Henry is going out sad, and it really
yeah,
sucks to see that. Like I
yeah.
think this might be the last time we see Derrick Henry in a Titans uniform. I don't want to say career because we've seen running
No.
backs like who've stuck with the franchise end up with a new one. Like
Hmm.
Dalvin Cook, he got released
Yeah,
with the
I
Jets,
was
but
just
we'll
gonna
talk
mention.
about that soon enough.
Yeah,
But
so yeah,
yeah, like the tight, especially after last year when you completely fumbled a division you were supposed to win against Jacksonville, and you've basically made zero progress as an organization when you're supposed to be a playoff contender, maybe even a fringe Super Bowl contender, being generous with that
maybe,
term right
maybe.
there. I think it's time the Titans need to tear down. And also DeAndre Hopkins has 1 more year on his deal, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah, he
Um,
signed a 2 year deal
I
for
think
him.
so.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So maybe they might try and go all in for 1 more year, but I don't think that's the best idea for the Titans. But hey, I'm not the GM, so that's
right,
not my
right.
responsibility. All right,
Yeah.
let's talk Falcons Bears.
Yeah. Well, Tyler Heineke threw 3 picks, and Falcons lost, and Tyler Algier had touchdown. Bijan had some more work than usual, which is good. But I mean, the Bears are in an interesting position where they have the Panthers pick, right? So they have the number one pick, I think,
Yeah,
clinched at this
yeah,
point. But they
yeah.
also
They have
have
the
a
number
very
one overall
outside
pick.
shot at making the
But
playoffs, although I don't think it's gonna happen. If yeah, so
no. But that's not the interesting part. What makes this interesting is, uh, there were chants around halftime and post game. Like I don't know if you saw it through like Bleacher Report videos on Twitter or whatnot. There were chants from not just like a
actually no,
few
they're
Bears fans.
eliminated.
Yeah,
Never mind.
there there were chants from not just a few Bears fans, but like quite a few thousand of them saying, "We want Fields. We want
We want
Fields.
yeah,
We
I was
want
hearing
Fields."
that.
That's
Yeah.
good. No, no,
Hmm.
no. So that makes the Bears situation all the more interesting because if Eberflus is going to roll with Fields as his quarterback and Ryan Poles right
Right.
there as your quarterback,
Yeah.
Chicago realistically, I think they need to pick up a tackle or a second wide receiver. I think their
It's gonna
defense is
make
fine.
draft positioning
So,
very interesting now. Yeah.
no, no. No.
I
So
mean,
the
yeah.
Bears have a hell of a lot of options at the number one option. I mean, at the number one pick. they could trade down and get a king's ransom for it,
Right.
or I mean, and I believe this has happened 3 times in NFL history, 3 or 4 times. I remember watching a video by the name of KTO, one of my favorite YouTubers. Um, he said there have only been a couple instances where a wide receiver was taken number one with the number one overall pick. The last wide receiver that happened to, Keyshawn Johnson. Um, so is it possible the Bears take Marvin Harrison Jr. with the first overall pick? That could be an option. Imagine that Justin Fields
Wow. That's
throwing a
insane.
David Moore or Marvin Harrison Jr. right there. That's your 1-2 punch. And then, I mean, of course, they don't have David Montgomery, but, the Bears certainly can make their offense look interesting. And, you can probably convince Dalvin Cook, like maybe, Dalvin Cook right there, or Derrick Henry if he gets released, then Zeke Elliott if he's testing free agency, um, Josh Jacobs if he's not coming back to Oakland, I mean Las Vegas. The Bears can certainly make quite a few splashes, and they have a pretty good amount of salary cap going into next season. So the Bears a have an infinite potential to drastically improve their offense next season, even if they keep Justin Fields or if they don't. Like, it's going to be very interesting to see what Chicago does. Very interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean they have a lot of different options with the first pick. I mean Fields is playing great, but I mean, yeah, so then if they're out of the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, that changes like the whole draft position. I mean, the draft board for other teams that might want a quarterback early on in the draft. I mean, we're looking at, Washington, New England, both might be interested in taking quarterback. The Giants, I mean, Cardinals, I guess, are going to stick with Murray. But yeah, I mean, definitely
No, no,
changes quite a lot.
that came out a couple days ago. The Cardinals said they're sticking with Kyler Murray,
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's what I
the
said. Yeah,
Cardinals have a chance to
they're out
trade
of the
down as
race.
well.
That's true. But for the other teams, I guess then we're looking at Washington, the Patriots for probably Williams and May, and then not sure what the Giants are going to do. Honestly, I think they should take a quarterback. I don't know if they will.
That would
Maybe a
I mean,
tackle or
that
a
would also
safety.
be interesting.
Who
No,
knows?
the Giants' position is also a bit interesting at quarterback.
Yeah, they have a
But
ridiculous situation. But I
let's
mean,
not
yeah.
forget
Anyway,
Russell Wilson.
he
I
wants
was just
out.
saying, let's not forget
No.
Russell Wilson is a name that no, like he might get cut in March. So,
Hmm.
and Russell Wilson isn't exactly like a grandpa. Like, he could still move. He still has arm talent. He's so elusive. I mean, of course, he
Right.
hasn't played all that well in Denver on some occasions, but he could be an option for teams to convince to not be committed to the draft. Like, if, for example, Chicago's, demanding, like, to for a team like, let's say, the Giants, if the Giants are being required to give up their first rounder this year, their first rounder next year, maybe throw in a second or third pick, and then, like, Darius Slayton or something like that for the number
Right.
one overall pick, and the Giants think that's too much, Russell Wilson's an option right there. Of course, then that begs the question: what are we going to do about Daniel Jones and the good old Tommy Cutlets? But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Who
so
knows? I
there's a
have no
lot of
clue.
interesting moves that can be made.
I really have no clue. It's yeah. Tyrod's
And
probably
speaking
gone.
of interesting,
DJ's probably there, and Tommy
no,
DeVito's probably gonna be the
I'd
backup.
keep Tyrod Taylor. That's just me. But
I would
speaking of
like to,
uninteresting,
yeah. But
yeah,
then Cutlets, I mean, we could probably keep him too. Daniel Jones, it depends on if they draft a quarterback or they want to give Daniel Jones a chance or what they do there. But I mean, who
yeah.
honestly knows
All
what?
right, but
So
speaking of
anyway,
interesting, let's talk about a game that was not interesting at all. Ravens Dolphins. What was supposed to be
it
a battle for the
started to
one
be
seed.
interesting. I was watching it in the
Well,
first half, and then it
both teams,
yeah got away
yeah,
from them.
both teams showed up for the first half, and the Ravens completely proceeded to just take a
Second,
just like
yeah.
nuke the
Second week
Dolphins.
of dominating another Super Bowl contender. So, I mean, the Ravens really made their statement that they're the best team in the NFL. I mean, dominating
No,
49ers on Christmas, and then now the Dolphins, who are currently still in the second seed in the AFC. So, I mean, they've dominated, arguably the second and third best teams in the NFL. So, I mean, if that doesn't say like, the Ravens are the best team in the NFL, like I don't know what will. Lamar Jackson is playing out of his mind right now. He had a perfect passer rating.
He might have solidified the MVP.
Yeah.
He might have solidified the MVP
I
case.
mean, 5 touchdowns, 18 for 21, 321 yards, and then, getting Rutgers running back Gus Edwards involved, and Zay Flowers. I mean, Isaiah Likely with 2 touchdowns. I mean, it was just a thorough game. The defense is playing well as well. I mean, they had a couple of interceptions on Tua Tagovailoa, and speed of Devon
And of course
Achane
the
is like
Dolph
Tyreek
and
Hill,
of
but I
course
mean,
no,
they
and of
just
course
ran out of gas there against Baltimore.
yeah,
So
and of
yeah,
course the Dolphins didn't just lose this game, they also lost a little more. Bradley Chubb tore his ACL. And if that
yeah,
doesn't make if that doesn't make the path to the Super Bowl even more tough, I don't know what does. Now Miami's down arguably their best corner, arguably, because Jalen Ramsey is working on the other side. But you know, this just makes things even more difficult. But the road to a championship is never easy. It's always carved through adversity. So if this is one more thing the Dolphins have to battle through, so be it. Every team will do everything it takes to win a championship. I mean, we've seen in hockey, guys play with broken feet,
hmm
bruised like forearms or whatever, a shriveled lungs and whatever, even if a guy, even a game seven on the Stanley Cup Finals, if some guy was shot in the head, he'd probably still find a way to play. But
yeah. Hockey's a different beast altogether. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Same thing with football. They definitely will play if at all they can. But yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, that's my takeaway. I mean, so I guess so the Ravens have the number 1 seed locked up. Dolphins are still in good favorable position, but they need to, I guess, beat the Bills to ensure the second seed. Otherwise, they've clinched a spot, but they'll slip to the wild card. So that's like I said, that's gonna be a great game on Sunday
yeah,
Night Football. And I guess keep this moving along, shifting over to another Florida team in the Buccaneers, who actually lost to the Saints despite leading the NFC South race. So that's an interesting one because it opened the door for the Saints, who also have an 8-8 record, but I guess the Buccaneers still have the tiebreaker there. Um, yeah, I didn't really get to watch this one. Seems like Baker Mayfield threw 2 interceptions. Derek Carr had a pretty solid game, I would
Derek
say.
Carr looks solid.
Yeah.
He had a nice touchdown to Taysom Hill. I think it was 22 yards. He had a nice touchdown there. Saints defense played well. Um, I don't understand what the hell is with the Saints. They're a very Jekyll and Hyde team. Like this team is the king, like at least this season. This team is the king of inconsistency. Like I don't I just, it's like what we were talking about the Bills a couple weeks ago. After like weeks of watching this team, I still don't know how to assess them. It seems like they flip a coin on whether they should play good or whether they should play like trash every week. So I still don't know what to make of the Saints. I really don't. But hey, if you're in a position to clinch the division in a winner take all game on the season finale, go for it. Even if it makes 0 sense. You're right there. You might as well just do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, yeah. Yeah, and that also, yeah, that sounds about accurate. That actually kind of does sound kind of like, the Bills, because, like they've had an up and down season themselves. Some games they've looked really well, some games they haven't looked great at all. And, lately they've rattled off 4 straight after losing to the Eagles in overtime, and, 5 of their last 6. And, some of them haven't been the most convincing wins, but I mean,
I thought the
you
Bills
know,
were dead after that loss to the Eagles.
yeah, I thought that was it, but they beat
There's
the
more
Chiefs,
wishful
beat
thinking
the
because
Cowboys, and they've kept winning, so they put
yeah,
themselves in a very good position, and that's a tough out in the playoffs. So I mean, Josh Allen, the guys, it seems like they found their stride, and they're getting hot at the right time. And that Patriots game, I mean, Zappy did not start well at all, and he three
no.
picked.
It's not Zappy. It is the whole damn team. Aside from Jalen Rager starting the game with a
Yeah, I
kick
was about to
return
say,
that went
like,
for
I
98
I
yards.
saw I saw that, and I was just like, Jalen Reagor for the opening kickoff, and then the quarterback stats started out like abysmal. It's like the 3 picks happened very early in the game, and his stat line was like zero
Yeah,
for
yeah.
something with three
We
picks, and
basically
Josh
did.
Allen also
Yeah,
had a
we
pick already too. I was like, what is going on here?
no. Josh Allen did not. Josh Allen didn't play that well at quarterback either. But
Yeah,
you
he
know,
did.
uh, I watched this game. It was well. I would I'd slap like a rated R label on that because it's you know,
Tough
it's
watch,
full
huh?
of graphic content. It's full of graphic content such as like, incompletions, horrible for the children to watch, and then interceptions, again horrible, bad football, horrible content. Like I would slap a rated R label on that. And our defense was not that bad. Like even after Bailey Zappi basically hand fed Buffalo their first 20 points, our defense was pretty rock solid. So like that's my main takeaway from this game. I like despite the fact that we don't that Matt Judon was lost for the season, that we lost our rookie corner Christian Gonzalez, our defense still put us in the best position to win games. And that's what I like seeing. Like, even though we lost to a division rival and it sucks, uh, I still like seeing like, the competitive fire out of our guys. And of course, Zeke Elliott, he had a nice game. So, I'd really like to see Ezekiel return to Foxborough like for another year or two. I really would, because he's been a catalyst, especially with Ramondre Stevenson out for the past couple of weeks. Zeke Elliott has really been a catalyst on the offense. Otherwise, we'd probably be even more stagnant than where we already are. But like I said, the teams that are the most hot going into the playoffs are the ones the most dangerous. Of course, Buffalo hasn't clinched a playoff spot just yet because they still have a chance to clinch the AFC East or the opportunity to completely whiff on that and get out of the playoffs. But if Buffalo does win next week against Miami, you could make a case that they're the most dangerous team in the NFL, aside from maybe Cleveland, or even to an extent the Rams, to an extent. But like I said, most dangerous team heading into the playoffs are the ones riding that hot streak.
Yeah.
So next week
So
against
mhm.
Miami will be very, very interesting.
It definitely will. It's going to
And
determine quite a lot.
rest assured, as a Patriots fan, I have no rooting party in this. I am just laughing at whoever loses.
Yeah.
All right,
Sounds
now
sounds
let's talk
about
about
right.
your favorite game. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
let's talk about your favorite game.
Yeah. Fly
I'll
Eagles
let you
fly.
take the
Uh-huh.
floor.
Yeah. Wonderful. For the second straight week, the Eagles played down the competition and they actually didn't start terribly. I mean, they're up 26, but I mean, that Eagles defense is
They
just
pulled
like
the Chargers.
being shredded. And this time they lose, and Cardinals, come up with a ridiculous comeback. And I don't understand. Like the Cardinals are just, yeah, like you said, they beat the Cowboys, they beat the Eagles, they almost beat the Giants and the Commanders too. But I mean, just a surprise game, but the Eagles are just headed in the wrong direction. They're like the Steelers from a few seasons ago that started really hot and completely collapsed. But I mean, I thought they'd at least be able to right the ship when they played the Giants and they played Giants again next week. But the way that's going, like the Giants might try to lose the game again and still beat them because the Eagles are just hapless on defense. The offense isn't terrible, but I mean they're not able to and close it out and win the games either. So it's just shocking. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know. I'm happy, but at the same time, like they're gonna limp into the playoffs. I mean, they have a chance to kind of right the ship. I mean, they still have a chance at the division in theory because the Cowboys could lose in theory. But I mean, if I were the Eagles, I'd play starters. I'd get the momentum back. Because you want to show up, you want to put up a good performance in New York before you head to probably Tampa Bay because that's not going to be an easy game. Like it's the NFC South champion, but they've had a good season. So if the Eagles aren't ready to play, that's probably a first round exit. And even if they are ready to play, I mean the Niners are going to be waiting for them. It's probably just about over, and I don't even know if they're going to even get that far. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that game. They got to figure it out. And they got to figure it out quickly.
Yeah, well, speaking of teams that need to figure out quickly, let's talk to Panthers Jaguars. Of course, the Jaguars, like this game was like Luigi wins by doing absolutely nothing. Like the Jaguars, even when Trevor Lawrence, like CJ Beathard were starting in place of the injured Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars really didn't have to do much to like spark them to like gain a win here. And of course, the man who made the most news out of this game was not Bryce Young, not Adam Thielen, not Marvin Jones or what's his name, Calvin Ridley or whatever. It was David Tepper, the
Yeah, but
Panthers owner. You saw
throwing a
throwing a
drink
drink
at a
on
Jaguars fan.
at a Jaguars fan, being having
That's nuts.
$300, having 300,000 ripped out of his pocket. Pretty
Right.
stupid. and it makes your organization like, look all the more immature when you're the
Hmm.
man riding the ship like that. So be better. That's all I could say. And speaking of be better, Raiders Colts. And I believe now Las Vegas is completely eliminated from the playoff circle, but they had their chances to win this. And I'm still more surprised that the Colts were actually in the playoff hunt when Anthony Richardson was taken out a few weeks ago. So, the Colts are fostering a good culture from what I could see. And, Shane Steichen can might be able to take this team in the future somewhere. So we'll see. And of course, it all comes down to the chaoticness of next week when they take on the Texans for the almost the rights to go to the for almost the rights to win the AFC South. Of course, Jacksonville still controls its own destiny. So we'll see about that game. You want to talk about Rams Giants?
Um, yeah. Well, seems like the Giants played really well. I mean, the punt return there by Gunnar Olszewski, that was great. I mean, Giants played great, but they also preserved their draft position, which I think is pretty nice. And then Tyrod Taylor had that beautiful pass to Darius Slayton. Like Tyrod Taylor, like if they started him the whole time against the Eagles, they probably would have won. And they came up close this time, but it's like he's good enough to kind of lead the team and play well, but he also makes these mistakes they shouldn't be making. The 2 point conversion drop was just terrible. That could have put them, it
I
gave
don't
them
know
the
what
win.
was
And
that.
then we have the missed. I know. I was just like, and then the missed field goal. Well, that things like that happen. But at the same time, it's like it's good because the Giants have life, and going into next season, you'd think about if you had better quarterback play, like what this team could be. At the same time, they preserve their draft picks, so they could get a better quarterback, and maybe Michael Penix Jr. could be a sleeper option there, the way he's been playing in the college football playoff. Just a thought. But
We'll see.
Jaden Daniels
We'll
maybe,
see.
but we'll
And
see what happens. But I was impressed, and I'm happy for the second week in a row competitive football, but a loss. So I mean, I think all things kind of work out. And I guess shifting over now to another team who's probably happy they lost is the Washington Commanders. So Niners getting right back on track
well,
after the Ravens lost,
again,
and
this is a game San Francisco really didn't have to do much, and especially with Philadelphia forgetting how to play football in the second half, the Niners took complete control of the one seed. So I think San Francisco should send a gift basket over to Philadelphia, but I don't imagine that would happen because of
yeah,
all the bad
that's
blood between the
fine.
two
Yeah.
teams. Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's go to Steelers Seahawks.
Right. Surprising win
Yeah.
there by so the Steelers. It's just shocking. They lose to the 2-10 Cardinals and the 2-10 Patriots, and then they come back and play really good football. And well, they lose to the Colts first, but then they beat the Bengals who were hot at the time. And then I mean, yeah, they have Jake Browning, but I mean, who also played bad. But then they beat Seattle, who's also looking for a playoff spot. And didn't really play all that bad, but it seems like Mike Tomlin's like a 500 merchant, if you want to call him that. Like he's good enough to get his teams to that level, but they're probably not going to be any serious contender, even if they make the playoffs, which is still somewhat unlikely, although they could
They
definitely
won't.
do it with Baltimore resting their starters if things go their way. But an interesting team. I mean, they made a lot out of tough situation. I mean, Mason Rudolph
I wouldn't
certainly is
call them
playing well.
interesting. I
You
wouldn't
go
even
ahead.
call them interesting. That's an insult to the usage of the word interesting. Like I don't know what the hell to describe the Steelers, but
Yeah, it's very
I
interesting
do know
team.
what to describe. I do know what words I want to say about Bengals Chiefs. Well, specifically the Chiefs. Frauds, frauds,
Huh.
frauds. Like the Chiefs had the Bengals had so many opportunities to just completely wipe the floor with the Chiefs. They didn't take advantage of that. Of course, neither team was able to like muster that much offense.
Right.
Like, that tends to happen time to time whenever these teams tend to spar. But like, this game says less about the Bengals and more about the Chiefs. I mean, again, Joe Burrow's out, like T.
Yeah.
Higgins kept coming in every 5 plays because of his hamstring injuries, and Jamar Chase being the one wide receiver getting double teamed all the time. And the
Hmm.
Chiefs are still barely able to beat the Bengals. Like the Chiefs
Yeah.
have showcased this entire season that they've been frauds. Like
Yeah.
like Travis Kelce literally didn't get his first reception until like the first half. Until like the first half almost ended or a little afterwards. So I mean, maybe that just may be the schematics of game design, but I don't know. Like the Chiefs may have clinched a 3 seed, but are they are looking very suspect, very suspect. And I guess talking about a nothing game, let's go to Chargers Broncos. Um, the Broncos were able to quote unquote generate an offensive spark as what Sean Payton wanted. And with Jared Stidham starting in place of Russell Wilson, and to no one's surprise, they put up pretty much the same exact offensive specs as what Russell Wilson would have put with Jared Stidham starting at the helm. So I don't know what the whole thing is Sean Payton. I don't know what to think of the Broncos. I think they were going to
Mm.
dissolve the chaos at the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't know
As for
why
the
they would cut Russell Wilson when he's starting to play good. It makes like no sense to me. I don't know what they were thinking.
well, I mean, like
It was even before that
it was
too.
about
But
like
I
the
mean,
restructuring, but it was
yeah, I
about the
get it. Yeah,
restructuring thing as well. But yeah, we'll talk more about that later. We definitely don't have time right now, but
right.
I don't know. Like
Yeah,
as for the Chargers, the less said the better. There's no
yeah.
point in talking about you. And
Hmm.
Arnav, I'll just close this out right now. Packers Vikings. So Jordan Love came to play, and I mean no, not the Vikings. The Packers certainly have a chance to sneak into the wild card. Of course, they'll need a couple things in their favor, but the Vikings didn't bother to show up, and of course, like their rotating QB carousel since Kirk Cousins went down has not exactly been optimal. What has been optimal is Jordan Love, his connections with Romeo Doubs, Christian
Hmm.
Watson, and the involvement of Aaron Jones. Like
Yeah.
the Packers, they they might be a sleeper pick in the end. And they're a team no one expects to do anything if they do make it to the playoffs. And it's always the teams you underestimate that are the ones that make the most noise. So, I guess that's another week right here,
Yeah.
and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Sounds good.